It's Supernatural over on ITV2 now, while here on ITV1 Wales, Barry Welsh has an election.
There now follows a party political broadcast on behalf of Mayor of Fishguard, Mr Kenny Twat.
Fishguard, a town in Wales looking forward to progress. Fishguard, a town in Wales where more than half the population is the majority. Fishguard, a town in Wales where dignity and prosperity are words. But why is Fishguard such a wonderful example of itself? It's all down to one man. Kenny Twat has been mayor of Fishguard since 1937. Kenny Twat believes in equality for all, including women. Kenny Twat is well known as a man with convictions.
Excuse me, sir.
Kenny Twat will give you yesterday's tomorrow, today. So remember, when you cast your vote in the local elections, say yes to Twat.
Hello! It's time to say no to Twat. No to Twat and yes to Barry Welsh, because I know what I'll be saying to Barry Welsh, and I don't think yes will be part of it. Hello, and welcome to Election Night Special here in Fishguard. The polls have closed and what have been a hard-fought contest. And while we wait for the result to come in, I'll be taking a look at some of the issues that have dominated the campaign in West Wales, such as policing. Are there enough bobbies on the beat? Sunday opening for churches? And the obesity epidemic. But of course, the main issue is that we're having an election at all, and that Mayor of Fishguard, Mr Kenny Twat, who's been sitting on the council for 70 years, has finally had to stand for re-election, facing competition from two rival candidates. Barry Welsh, who describes himself as the anchor of TV's Barry Welsh is Coming. Think you left out the W there, Barry. And well-known local man, Mr Geraint Pillock, who is well-known locally for being well-known. However, many people in Fishguard would prefer not to have an election and think that democracy is nothing more than political correctness gone mad.
Oh, you think it's ridiculous?
I object to it.
A point of view shared by top fashion model and local resident, Kate Moss. Kate, what do you think of democracy?
I think it's rather bad for people's nerves and myself. Well, so is everything else these days.
Been having a rough time with that Pete Doherty, haven't you?
But despite misgivings, people have been turning out to vote. And when the polls opened this morning, one of the first to arrive was local businessman Orson Cart, managing director of Easy Horse, Fishguard's leading low-cost travel company. And here's Rasputin Twat, son of Mayor of Fishguard, Mr Kenny Twat, being led away by detectives after being caught claiming to be a fully grown man so that he could vote for his father. And there go Fishguard Fire Brigade, doing everything in a hurry, as usual. Too bad that while they were voting, their fire station was destroyed by fire. The blaze was caused by a carelessly discarded cigarette from the cage of station mascot Cheeky Monkey. A tearful leading fireman, Norman Helmet, said that Cheeky Monkey's face had always lit up when the fireman came to work in the morning. But this time, his face had lit up for a different reason. Because he was burning to death in a fire. Some of the most highly motivated voters today have been old-age pensioners, galvanised into action by the high cost of heating their homes in winter. Fishguard Council's proposal to solve the problem by using the OAPs themselves as loft insulation has not gone down well. And the pensioners, backed by campaigning group Fishguard Nearly Dead Club, say they will not take the threat of being used as insulation lying down. A spokesman for Fishguard Council said putting old people in the loft would cut heating bills at a stroke. A spokesman for Fishguard Nearly Dead Club was unable to comment because he'd just had a stroke. So it looks like a good start to polling day here in Fishguard. Except, of course, for the spokesman of Fishguard Nearly Dead Club. And Rasputin Twat. And Cheeky Monkey. I see that Fishguard police are looking for a dog handler. Hope they catch him. Dog handling's a filthy thing to do. Which brings us, rather unpleasantly, to one of the perennial political issues. Law and order. Yes, crime is never far from anyone's mind in Fishguard. And at the beginning of this year, street robbery was at an all-time high, with as many as 3 entire streets being stolen in one night. Strong measures were called for, and Mayor of Fishguard, Mr. Kenny Twat, quickly introduced a raft of new legislation, including new raft legislation, making it an offence to use a raft in a way likely to result in a raft being used. The council also found that antisocial behaviour orders, the so-called ASBOs, weren't working, and decided to try something stronger. Special antisocial behaviour orders, SPASBOs. But that didn't work either, so there was only one option left, the reintroduction of hanging, for a wide range of criminal offences, including murder, if committed on a double yellow line. Impersonating a police officer, unless it's a really good impersonation and everybody laughs, and also being English without due care and attention. Serious crimes that merited serious punishment. But how did the people of Fishguard react to something as controversial as the reintroduction of the death penalty? How was the hanging?
I thought it was very good, but very terrifying.
Very, very good indeed. Very suspenseful and very entertaining.
Suspenseful, all right. Now, you've been to the hanging every week since it started. Why is that?
Oh, well, I don't have other entertainment, only this. It's only night out I do have, and I do enjoy it.
Yes, hanging has proved to be very popular, which is good news for local hangman Mr. Albert Throttle. Mr. Throttle, you used to hang curtains for a living. How long does it take you to hang a human being?
Well, approximately an hour.
An hour? That's a long time to be hanging about, as it were. What sort of people do you get coming to watch a hanging?
Well, school children with their parents.
School children?
Oh, yes, quite a lot.
I can hardly believe it. What does Fishguard Society for Cruelty to Children have to say about this?
Well, I think if it's entertainment for the kiddies and the local people, that's all we want around this area.
So that's all right then. You're a child. You go to the hanging every week.
Yes,
Why?
because I love it.
I'll bet it hasn't stopped you going out thieving, though. Little tyke. Yes, hanging may not actually be working as a deterrent, but that's not really the point. What matters is, it's very popular and great family entertainment. So, on Law and Order, Mayor of Fishguard, Mr. Kenny Twat, is looking very strong. But what are the other candidates in today's election, Barry Welsh and Geraint Pillock, offering in the way of policies? Let's take a look now at Barry Welsh, a man who would certainly win a blocked lavatory lookalike competition, but not necessarily the local election here in Fishguard. Yes, Mr. Welsh, either wisely or stupidly, but let's say stupidly, has chosen to campaign on one issue only, colour. He thinks it's time Fishguard stopped being black and white. He says that because the rest of Wales is in colour, Fishguard should be as well, even though it would mean losing much-loved local traditions such as the junior black and white minstrels, seen here performing at a charity show to raise funds for racial awareness. The chances of Barry Welsh becoming the next mayor of Fishguard are about as likely as Osama bin Laden becoming the next mayor of New York. But in the interests of fair play, and because I fancied a laugh, I interviewed Mr. Welsh earlier on today. Barry, tell us about your plans for Fishguard.
Well, myself and my political party, Colour for Fishguard, COF, yes, Colour for Fishguard, what we want is to bring Fishguard into line with the rest of the Principality. So I'm proposing a phased introduction of colour. First of blue and red, to be followed by yellow a year later, then intermediate shades to be rolled out over a 3-year period.
Strange, isn't it, that you want to bring colour to Fishguard, because you're not exactly a colourful character, are you, Barry?
Don't try to be funny, Hugh. Why don't you just do a proper interview?
All right, Barry, here's a serious question for you. What'll you do if you get no votes for COF?
What did you say?
What'll you do if you get no votes for COF?
Hang on, did you just say...
I asked the questions, Barry, and that's all we've got time for at the moment. Barry Welsh there, the man whose wife once stepped on something unpleasant, then married it. And certainly his unpleasant policy won't attract any votes. But even so, he has provoked a furious reaction from Christian groups who fear that if Fishguard goes into colour, it will encourage homosexuality, which they regard as a sin. Look at Haverfordwest, they say, which has been in colour for years, and where every summer thousands of homosexuals arrive to camp it up at the annual Camp. And Haverfordwest welcomes them with open arms, and the Pink Pound contributes significantly to the local economy. The richest man in Haverfordwest is well-known local businessman Marvin Gaye, whose popular nightclub, the Scout Hut, has made him a millionaire. But the prospect of making some easy money from coachloads of holiday homos doesn't interest the Christians. Evangelical is minister of the Jesus Loves You But Not If You're Gay church in Fishguard. Reverend Jellicle, what is it that your church doesn't like about homosexuals?
Haven't you read my comments?
No? Have you read them?
Yes.
Well, that's all right then. So what do you think about homosexuality?
Not yet.
I see. Thank you very much.
Why should we suffer?
Thank you.
Now, look, I got the support of everybody in this.
So much for the Reverend Evangelical. But local landowner Lord Haverfordwest of Haverfordwest sees things very differently. In Calla, he's the owner of the campsite, and he's really taken to the gay lifestyle. Lord West, I understand you're having a love affair with a Polish sailor. How is it?
Well, I'm very much torn. But I particularly want to do the right thing.
You're going to marry him?
Well, I can't give a date, but I should say within the next week or two, probably.
Congratulations. Hope everything heals up in time for the honeymoon.
Thank you.
Could Fishguard go into Calla? Could Barry Welsh win the election? Find out that they don't in part 2 of the programme, when I'll be interviewing Geraint Pillock and looking at more of the election issues before joining the crowds which are already gathering outside Fishguard Town Hall. And just before I go, there was a bit of good news today for local woman Mrs. R. Space, who's been chosen to be in the next series of I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Her. Mrs. Space will be the one that they're trying to get the celebrities out of. See you after the break. Hello, and welcome back to Election Night Special from Fishguard. How am I? That's a question a lot of local people have been asking themselves since they discovered that Mrs. A is completely out of control at St. Sardines Hospital, Fishguard. I'm sorry, that should be MRSA is completely out of control at St. Sardines Hospital, Fishguard, resulting in more deaths than is thought healthy. Yes, as ever, health is high on the political agenda, but Mayor of Fishguard, Mr. Kenny Twat, has defended his medical record, saying that the death rate in West Wales is just the same as it's always been, 1 per person. But Mr. Twat accepts that even that is still too high, and has called for doctors at St. Sardines to introduce a radical new regime, in which patients will be treated only in Welsh. The theory is that because germs thrive in dirt, the use of English, known to be a filthy language full of swear words such as only encourages diseases, whereas Welsh is a very clean language, and by speaking it, the doctors hope to be able to kill all known germs. But the people of Fishguard are facing another, even bigger health problem. Quite literally, obesity. Yes, in the last 5 years, Fishguard has seen a 10-fold increase in obesity. That's 10 times more obesity, not 10 more folds of fat hanging over your waistband. Although it probably is. Doctors are particularly worried because babies are now being born that are larger than their mothers. Baby Gwilym here was more than 3 times the size of his mother when he was born. So, once again, Mayor of Fishguard, Mr. Kenny Twat, has turned to doctors at St. Sardines to come up with an answer. And one of them has. Dr. Raj will see you now, a consultant gastrophalangeolaryngoenterologist who specialises in gastrophalangeolaryngoenterology, has devised a new kind of weight loss technique called regulated eating control through unpleasant movement, rectum, in which patients lose weight inside large vibrating machines, nicknamed Fat Boy Slimmers by the nurses who operate them. I spoke to Dr. Will See You Now as he prepared to treat his first batch of overweight patients. Dr. Will See You Now, losing weight is a notoriously lengthy process. How long do you reckon it'll take your patients to get themselves down to a healthy size?
It takes about 14 days.
14 days? That's less than 2 weeks. But after 14 days, you reckon that everybody in the slimming machines will be down to a healthy weight?
Well, it is a new thing, really, and therefore...
Therefore, you don't really know. But what have they got to lose, apart from weight? And you're going to be one of the first to try this new treatment. How heavy are you, if you don't mind me asking?
10 stone.
And how much weight are you hoping to lose?
14 stone 9.
That'll take a bit of doing. Up to 300 patients can be treated in the Fat Boy Slimmers at any one time. And for this first session, they're going to be full, just like the overstuffed bellies of the people queuing up to get into them. Dr. Will See You Now starts the treatment cycle. And the patients, now firmly secured inside the slimming machines, begin to feel the first effects of rectum. And they'll be in there for the next 2 weeks. Of course, not everyone thinks the NHS should provide free treatment for what is, after all, a self-inflicted condition. What do you think of all those obese people getting free treatment at taxpayers' expense?
I think they're absolutely disgusting.
Do you think they should be left to eat neat until they explode and then dumped in a landfill?
Yes, I do.
But unfortunately, that's not an option. Because the combined weight of all the obese people in Fishguard is so great, it's actually causing Fishguard to sink into the sea. Obesity is not only a health problem, it's an environmental problem as well. Scientists say that the combination of Fishguard sinking and sea levels rising because of global warming means that by 2050, that's 10 to 9, Fishguard will be completely underwater. And already the notorious Haddock Estate, well known as the poorest and most crime-ridden part of Fishguard, is completely submerged every day at high tide. I spoke to some of the residents of the Haddock. What's it like being underwater for large parts of the day?
Well, I think it's terrible. It's not healthy for the children.
No, I suppose not, because they'll drown, won't they? But more important than that, what sort of an effect is it having on the houses?
Well, they're too damp.
Yes, and it's not just the people who live on the Haddock Estate who are affected. As Constable Dim Thomas of Fishguard Police, seen here recovering stolen goods from the Haddock, can tell you. He's angry because the diver's helmet he now has to wear squashes his police helmet down so far over his face he can't see where he's going. And local postman Norman Mailer has had to change his uniform as well. He does that every morning. No wonder we don't get the letters till lunchtime. So what has Fishguard Council, led by Mayor of Fishguard and election candidate Mr. Kenny Twat, got to say about the problem?
Sorry. I had a letter from him this morning, they're sorry.
How do you feel about that?
Well, mad, of course, and everything is upside down.
Yes, the mood on the Haddock Estate is pretty ugly. And not just the mood either. It's something that the candidates in this year's election can't afford to ignore because the Haddock, a sink estate that has actually sunk, contains more floating voters than any other political ward in Fishguard. But only one candidate of the 3 candidates standing shows any serious interest in environmental issues, and that's Geraint Pillock, who I interviewed at the beginning of his election campaign 2 weeks ago. Geraint, can I start by asking why you're standing for election?
Mainly because it's a challenge. First of all, it's a challenge for me. Secondly, it's a challenge for the Coracle. And again, it's a personal challenge for me.
That's right. Now, you're campaigning on the issue of the environment, and you argue that the way we live now isn't sustainable, and that we've all got to go back to the way people lived hundreds of years ago.
It states in books, history books, that it has been done before by monks and so forth.
Yeah, the monks did it, certainly, but the amazing thing is that you're doing it now, aren't you, Geraint? Where you live doesn't have any heating or electricity. It's got an outside toilet. In fact, it is an outside toilet, isn't it, Geraint? I mean, how long does it take you to cook your breakfast in the morning? On a toilet?
Could take anything from between 12 and 50 hours.
It's good to see an environmentalist living by his principles. And are you optimistic that you'll win the election?
Oh, very optimistic. I will do it.
That's the spirit. Well, it seems that Geraint's hard work on an issue that people care about has paid off. Exit polls today suggest he has a real chance of winning. It's too early to say, of course, but it is beginning to look as if tonight, for the first time in a long time, Twat might be in for a good licking. And that prospect has certainly got the crowds very excited outside Fishguard Town Hall, where we're expecting the results to be announced within the next 10 minutes. But just before we go across to the town hall, we do have time to take a look at what has probably been the most contentious issue of all in this election campaign. Asylum seekers from Rill. While everybody in Fishguard understands the plight of these desperate people who use any means possible to escape from Rill, they also remember only too well the arrival of millions of Polish waitresses after Poland joined the European community in 2004. Liberal voices, notably the leader writers on the Fish Guardian, point out that the asylum seekers from Rill are prepared to do the jobs that no one else in Fishguard wants, such as helping with the harvest on sewage farms. Looking for moral guidance on this complex issue, I spoke to the Reverend Evangelical of the Jesus Loves You, but not if you're from Rill, church. Reverend Jellicle, what's your church's position on asylum seekers from Rill?
Not you.
Hang on, you said exactly the same thing about homosexuals earlier on in the programme. You're just a small-minded bigot who hates anyone who's not exactly the same as you.
Yes.
Good, just wanted to make sure about that. Of course, the real reason nobody wants the asylum seekers from Rill is... Oh, well, I think they're just about to announce the results, so let's go alive now to me outside Fishguard Town Hall. Fishguard hasn't seen crowds like this since Mrs. Bowen dropped a £5 note in the high street. And there's the returning officer. I think he's going to announce the result. Yes, here's the result. I, the undersigned, being the acting returning officer for the constituency of Fishguard, hereby declare the result. Geraint John Thomas Pillock for the environment, 16,148. Kenneth Adolf Pinochet Pol Pot Stalin Saddam Mugabe Twat for himself, 14,274. Barreld Harold Larald Warald Welsh. Fuck off. 1. Absolutely extraordinary. Kenny Twat, the man who took Fishguard from virtual obscurity to real obscurity, is no longer Mayor of Fishguard. That honour now goes to Mr. Geraint Pillock, the man who single-handedly beat off his opponents to bring this erection to a glorious climax. Sorry, election. I do apologise. And Barry Welsh is nowhere, although he is, of course, unfortunately, somewhere. And there goes Kenny Twat, being taken away by the police, who have just discovered that some of his votes were counted twice. Although Mr. Twat insists that was done only to make sure they were his votes. And Geraint Pillock, of course, now being infested as Mayor of Fishguard, so we can't speak to him at the moment. But when I interviewed him at the start of his campaign, I did ask him what he thought it would be like if he won the election. Get out!
It could be very dangerous, and yet on the other hand, it can be all right. It all depends on the weather.
Wise words there from environmental activist and new Mayor of Fishguard, Mr. Geraint Pillock, because the future does indeed depend upon the weather and how we all cope with a changing climate. That's all from me. If anyone's driving from Fishguard to Cardiff tonight and you happen to see Barry Welsh trying to hitch a lift, do the decent thing. Run him over. Have a good evening. Good evening.
Next tonight, on to the serious stuff as ITV1 Wales brings you the genuine election results, live from across the nation. Wales decides.